what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, news director Brian Hauswirth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I don't have anything. 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 I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. We don't have anything. Just don't have anything. Don't have anything. So I don't have anything. 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 Just don't have anything. I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. Again, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. Don't have anything.
All right, you get the point. Well, she had something for us yesterday. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre. She was asked about, hey, what are you seeing regarding anti-Semitism threats? She said, a couple of things. Look, we have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that's out there. But look, Muslims and those perceived to be Muslims have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. It's really, when you're asked the question regarding condemning hate attacks, yes, condemn hate for any reason. So she was asked about this the other day, and she said, well, we're not seeing anything. I'm like, are you kidding? The White House, I know nothing. I see nothing. What do you...
It's just tragic. I mean, it's a tragedy, and her ignoring it is tragic.
And it just, every day, they just build and build. They keep heaping on to the disaster that is the Biden administration, and it's dangerous, of course. We know that. That's why it affects us, man. The whole take on this from Democrats. Matter of fact, Pelosi said yesterday in an interview, Israel deserves justice, but not revenge, because they're defending themselves. So she was asked about this yesterday, like Karine, and this was after, by the way, very prominent Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz out of Florida said basically what we're just saying. What the hell are you thinking? You people are allegedly running the country. Karine Jean-Pierre offering up an explanation yesterday. So here's the excuse from the White House. Well, we didn't hear the question properly, and that was an excuse they borrowed from, I think, 6 days ago when Joe Biden gave a very poor answer regarding what was happening in Israel. He said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. BS excuse. They've used it more than once. Here's clarity from KJP.
Make something clear at the top, because I understand how important moral clarity is, especially at this time. So when Jews are targeted because of their beliefs or their identity, when Israel is singled out because of anti-Jewish hatred, that is anti-Semitism.
So there she's borrowing a page from the play. So she borrowed a page from the playbook of Biden. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question properly. And then she borrowed, for that answer, she borrowed a play from the playbook of Kamala Harris. Hannah, it sounds a lot like Kamala Harris trying to explain the Russian-Ukrainian war.
Yeah, I hear the similarities.
Yeah. Well, see, here's what anti-Semitism is. And I'm not apologizing for what I said, because I said I didn't hear the question. Very much sounds like Kamala Harris there. I don't know. This is what anti-Semitism is. And this is how you explain this. Again, leadership, White House, United States of America. And then in the House, if at first you don't succeed, then try again. If you don't succeed there, then try again. And then if you don't succeed there, try one more time. And then if you don't succeed there, let's try one more time. How embarrassing, man. Seriously.
They're going to name one of the janitors as the next nominee, I think.
I'm getting more on board, and I want to get Raven Harrison's take on this. People, they floated the idea of Trump being Speaker of the House. You don't have to be an elected member of Congress to be appointed Speaker of the House. I'm not kidding. I'm liking this idea. Why not? Why not at this point? You have these Republicans. They cannot agree on anybody. But I do bring good news this morning. So now we're down to, it's not going to be McCarthy. It's not going to be Jordan, not going to be Scalise, not going to be Emmer. So now we've narrowed the possibility down to only 216 options.
But we've got a designee in Mike Johnson, and he did speak last night. And, I don't know if he's going to get the votes that he needs, but I really appreciate his comments. And I wasn't familiar with him before last night, and I was honestly impressed.
Democracy is messy sometimes, but it is our system. This conference that you see, this House Republican majority, is united.
And I'm impressed with him, too. He's got all the chops. He has been a staunch opponent to abortion. So he's got all, and he's former talk show host, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Well, maybe that's why I saw a really nice tweet from Mark Alford, who also used to be in media, that's praising Mike Johnson, saying, "I'm really glad." I think he referred to Mike Johnson as my friend.
He did.
Is being elevated. So I thought that was really interesting, and I saw a lot of really supportive tweets from people that I was kind of surprised by.
Steve Scalise weighed in on him, thought he's a pretty good guy too.
I don't understand this part.
This conference that you see, this House Republican majority is united.
I don't understand that either.
United in chaos.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be in this situation if that was true.
One congressman said, it's embarrassing. It's like herding cats on methamphetamine. Raven Harrison's thoughts at 7:10. Congressman Jason Smith. Here's the cool thing, and I want you to hear this. Be here this morning, 7:35. So he's in the midst of all this yesterday. And I know what we're hearing from what we see on the TV, but he's in. I want to see what he can dish out for us, 7:35 this morning.
You know, I kept saying maybe we should just rock, paper, scissors, and I thought, and kind of joking, but I think people forget it's a really big deal to be the Speaker of the House and how much power that person has. And you just said methamphetamine. In reading, according to Wikipedia, one of the functions of the House Speaker is that they can, in consultation with the minority leader, devise a system of drug testing in the House. This option has never been exercised. I was unaware of that power, but if you think about, they basically control everything that goes on the floor. They control all of the committees. They control, I think they get the majority of the appointments on it's basically the Rules Committee. So there's just so much power in that one person. And so I think it really, I mean, all jokes aside, I think it really is important, and we need someone who's serious. Whether or not we can get there, I don't know.
And Tip O'Neill was somebody I grew up watching, and people remember Sam Rayburn, but Tip O'Neill in many ways had as much power as President Reagan, but they actually got things done. They would actually they drank alcohol after 5 o'clock together.
I think they're still doing that.
Well, but the days of actually working together and trying to get anything done, Stephanie, they're just it's.
Well, but Mike Johnson said they're united, though.
They're not united in their caucus, and there's no bipartisanship anymore. It's just over.
Yeah, and the Speaker also gets to appoint other really important positions, like the parliamentarian. Isn't that the person that we've has been in the news over the last several years? The historian. Did I know there was a historian, the general counsel, and the inspector general? Yeah. So it's a huge position, and it's sad that we can't find anybody out of all of these people that we think would do a good job.
One of the things, and I'm excited, 7:10, Raven Harrison, RavenHarrison.com, man, she's always on fire. Spoke with her on phone yesterday, and man, she picked up the phone. She says, Brandon, I'm in Florida right now. I'm gay. I mean, she just boom, boom, boom. Hear what she has to say at 7:10. Because the other thing we keep hearing, sometimes democracy is messy, and sometimes it's painful. Like if you're in a relationship and you and your partner have a disagreement, you got to work through those disagreements, and that's hard sometimes, and yeah, it can be messy. But how messy should it be? And now, a little bit closer to home, Missouri Speaker of the House, Dean Plocher, who's running for Lieutenant Governor, position currently held by Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Marsh, what's the story there?
Well, as we reported last week, the Speaker, Dean Plocher, fired his chief of staff amid allegations from the chief clerk of the House that he was involved in unethical conduct and wanting to spend almost $800,000 to hire a company to manage some constituent information, what they called it. Now Plocher's being accused of charging the state for travel expenses that his campaign had already paid for. So not good publicity when you're announcing you're running for higher office.
Yeah, and I think no, it's not. But in Plocher's defense, he is saying that this was inadvertent. He's issued a statement to the Missouri Independent that he's in the process of completing a full review of his expenditures, that he'll correct any additional administrative errors in the spirit of full transparency. I think what's significant, Jay Ashcroft, who's running for governor, wrote this on Twitter, and I'm just going to read it to you folks in its entirety. This is coming from a gubernatorial candidate about the Speaker of the House of his own party. Quote, "The allegations against the Speaker of the House are significant and serious. I call on the legislature to swiftly investigate and, if proven, to take action to protect the integrity of the House of Representatives and the people's money, end of quote. Stephanie, goodness gracious, after Ashcroft tweeted that, Speaker Plocher fired back at Ashcroft. And Moledge Twitter, the progressives on Twitter are rejoicing. I've never heard of what he talked about, something about dropping out of the Merchant Marines?
Yeah, that's what the tweet was about. He said, last I checked, or when are you going to pay back taxpayers the tens of thousands of dollars you owe them after dropping out of the Merchant Marine Academy? Last I checked, all dropouts have to pay back the people's money. I had to ask people about that, and I don't know that I have a clear enough story that I feel comfortable sharing it, because I had never heard that before.
Nor have I.
He also fired back at Will Scharf. Will Scharf in the Attorney General's race said something, and he brought up, basically said he needs to resign. And he said, essentially, well, you were involved in all the Greitens scandal with using the texting app, and, you're
He mentioned Hawley, too.
And Hawley conducted an investigation, and so those two really got into it over Twitter, too.
And Bill Eigel, who's also running for governor, as is Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, also responded via social media yesterday regarding these allegations regarding Mr. Plocher. I did reach out to Dean Plocher yesterday via text and said, hey, what's your comment? Did not get a response. This is from yesterday afternoon. I will say this, and I don't know if you've ever read the Missouri Independent, which is an interesting name, the Missouri Independent. No. It's like Fox when they say fair and balanced. Not really. So that's one of my takes on that as it relates to the Missouri Independent. And by the way, Jason Hancock, who I think started looking into this. One of the things that happens, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the case here, but a lot of times any news organization, they can take something like a campaign finance story and grab one little thing and you put it in a headline, and when you see it in print, people go, oh, it's kind of a big deal. A lot of it is not a big deal. It's just because somebody put it in print, somebody put it in a headline, and now it looks good. But I will say Jason Hancock for the Missouri Independent, he does thorough work.
And the shade being thrown by Plocher and Ashcroft, the stuff on the Merchant Marine Academy, and he didn't complete his term there. This goes back to the deal during the primary with Will Krause and Jay Ashcroft casting shade at each other over this. I remember our sister station, Springfield, KWTO, was right in the middle of that whole debate.
Yeah, and I think for me, the takeaway from yesterday really is a foreshadowing of how the next year is going to go, because it got really personal really quickly on Twitter, and it continued throughout the day. And so I think we can expect to see more of this as we move closer to 2024.
A harbinger of things to come. Coming up next, Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Well, we are learning more about what Michael Cohen had to say yesterday in some of these Trump trials.
The walls
true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence.
Fact check. Former Trump attorney Jenna Ellis pleading guilty to a count of aiding and abetting false statements in writings in Georgia yesterday. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
She's the third to do so. Of course, the first was, I think, Kenneth. Did Kenneth Cheesebro plead before Sidney Powell or Sidney Powell? Either way, there's
Sydney, then Kenneth, and now Jenna.
her. So the dominoes are falling. I think there's a total of 19, including Trump. So we'll see who pleads next. I was kind of shocked by that. On Twitter, she's very bombastic, and she, seemed to be right along with Trump the whole time. And so to hear her really tearful and remorseful, I was she needs to be at this point, but I was surprised by the tone of the talk.
And we're going to cover more of this 6:35, but I get it. Like, I've been mouthy to cops and stuff, but then when I'm actually in the courtroom in front of the judge, I've changed my tune real quick, too.
And I also, and the charges are serious, so she pled guilty to a felony count of aiding and abetting false statements in writing. And you think about the implications on your life of pleading to a felony. I think in her comments also she had indicated that she was censured by, I think, the Colorado bar. But, I kind of looked up what restrictions does a felon have in Georgia, because there are different restrictions in different states, and you can lose certain privileges. That includes, in certain states, you can lose your privilege of the right to vote. You can lose your privilege to run and hold for office, to sit on a jury, and then also certainly there are some restrictions around firearms in certain states. So, a serious count, and obviously she was, her life is going to be affected.
And I'll say this, Jenna Ellis saying, I was more senior attorneys and I didn't check their work. It makes me think they maybe should have hired Stephanie Bell, who does immediate fact checks on herself here on the show.
Right. And again, that's if you're convicted of a felony. She pled guilty to the felony. I don't know what her settlement agreement says, but obviously, you're still, you're guilty of a felony.
And I continue to be more and more convinced that independent and even Democrat voters, they're caring less and less about Trump's legal woes, because looking at some of the reality of things. Again, 6:35. I did want to get some more into that.
And the question is, as part of all of these deals, these three are going to be testifying against Trump. And so what do they know? What will they say? What will they say about what he knew? That's where I think I have concerns for Trump. Also, in a different case, Michael Cohen testified Tuesday. Trump was in the courtroom. He had been wanting to be present for the Michael Cohen testimony. Things went south, I think, around the time of Stormy Daniels between these two. Michael Cohen testified that he did basically boost the valuation of the president's assets, and basically said Trump told him what number to get to, and they found a way to get there. So not a good day in court yesterday, but obviously with everything that's gone on between Michael Cohen and Trump, there's some room to discredit Cohen. At the same time, I didn't know this. The Biden administration is cutting the fence Texas put up. That's ridiculous. With everything that's going on the border, Ken Paxton is saying, the Texas Attorney General is saying, Texas has a sovereign right to construct border barriers to prevent the entry of illegal aliens. At least one state trooper said it's inhumane. It's kind of like a sharp fence. And so I guess the federal government's been coming through and cutting the fence open so the migrants can just run right through.
And it's okay, because there's nothing going on a worldwide stage right now. The Border Patrol
who's been the engine behind this effort. And she's going to lead the discussion with representatives from these tech hubs on the screen behind me for all of you to see. I apologize. I have to go to the Situation Room with another issue.
Biden, he's doing a speech, an economic speech. Supposed to speak for a while, and after a few minutes says, "I'm sorry, but I have to leave. I have to go to the Situation Room." And I'm wondering, did he mean bathroom? Is that what he meant?
The nap room.
I got to go to the Situation Room, and I got to go right now. Does not seem out of the realm of possibility. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and that's the guy who's in charge of the country and our security. That's the guy who's sending officials to the border while we're in the midst of terrorist threats from Border Patrol. They're going, as Stephanie Bell just reported in the daily D.C. rundown, they're going and cutting down barriers to keep these illegal immigrants and to keep terrorists from coming into our country. And I got to think, man, that more and more independents and Democrats are starting to look at some of these things. And they're going, Trump's legal stuff, don't really care because there's some reality punching me upside the head every day. We're going to cover that here on the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
It's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Marsh is here.
Here, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. Glad you could be here. So Trump court yesterday, a couple of stories that we reported in the daily D.C. rundown. Tearful apology from Jenna Ellis pleading guilty. And I do have to, I got, and here's what she said. She said, listen, I had senior attorneys telling me these things. I ran with that. And she said, and I didn't fact check them. And we know that's a real, we fact check ourselves here on the show all the time when it's convenient. But in a situation like that, that could be really dangerous. So now you've got Sidney Powell, who was, and here's the thing with Sidney Powell and Cheese Bro and Ellis, they were all leading up to some of this stuff as it relates to the election case, specifically in Georgia. They were strong about, nope, this happened, we're going to prove it, and now it's
kind of rolling over, aren't they?
Yeah.
And now they're walking back. And so, as an attorney, you have special duties. You're not supposed to bring, frivolous claims. You have a duty of candor with the court to be honest and transparent. And, a lot of times you see, for that reason, when people file things and, you're making an allegation, you say, on information and belief, Branden Rathert was at the gas station on Saturday night or whatever, right? Because you're saying, I have reason to believe that this is true. It could be, that's what I know. So there are certain representations you see from attorneys, but you really do. You're not, under the rules, and it sounds like she's already had some ethical issues with her own home state bar, that, she went beyond that, at least according to the court, and now according, I guess, to her, since she's accepted this plea deal. But it's scary as someone who deals in a lot of election law, who does a lot of election integrity work, who, and oftentimes you're called to make snap decisions on election day with election integrity. And luckily in Missouri, we haven't had this issue. But, many years ago, the court was going to hold the polls open later, and attorneys had to race to court, type as fast as they could, get into court, because for some of those election law issues, if they certify the election or if they hold the polls open or whatever, it's happening all in real time. So you are called on, and you're called on to represent your client to the best of your ability. So there are a lot of, things that are happening very quickly. But it doesn't mean that you can, there is still a certain level that you should be doing your due diligence, I guess, when you're investigating. But, a lot of times you've got to, so I think part of it is, and I think you brought this up, Branden, is that they hung on to it for so long that at some point, if you come into court, and on day one, perhaps you don't have all the evidence. Over time, a week later, if the evidence is starting to pile up and everything you thought was happening, now you're learning, hey, maybe that didn't happen how I thought it did on election night or the day after the election, then also you would have a duty to be with the court to say, oh, wait a minute, perhaps I didn't have the full picture, or perhaps, the things weren't as I saw them. And I think in this way, those three folks hung on much long when they probably knew or should have known that some of the claims they were making
I wonder if that's an ego thing, pride. Like, well, I stood by this and I'm not backing off now because I planted the flag on Twitter. I planted it on all the interviews I planted the flags. I can't back off. Now, speaking of duty, can we share?
I think of the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family folks out there, Stephanie, that aren't members of the bar. I think they just see this all as a very thinly veiled attempt to stack the deck against Donald Trump.
Oh, I think so. But, and you're talking about people outside the bar. I mean, look at what we saw from the national news media. You're talking about ego. They held on to that hospital lie for how long? And they wouldn't walk it back. And so, I mean, I think that ego infects more than just lawyers.
So I don't know that I'm buying into this.
The gold-plated walls around former President Trump appear to be closing in on.
I don't know that I'm buying it, and here's why. Because there's always, the Trump mean tweets. He did this, he said that, and then he's got 4 legal issues that he is dealing with right now. Oh, see, he just doesn't have the moral, he's morally inept at these things. But here's why I think, and it's not just polling, which Stephanie and I think 6 weeks now, we've started to see a change in the polls and polling from everywhere. The most important thing, for what it's worth, it's been consistent. It has been growing. Now we're a year out, but it's all been favoring Trump. And here's why I think more Democrats and even independents, they're going more and more like, you know what? Don't really care about that stuff. Here's what I care about. My financial future and my safety and my well-being. We see crime in these progressive cities. You're having to go to stores and you want to buy some tools. You got to go and get it unlocked from the case, and that's a pain. And it's affecting people. And I think they're going, you know what? I really don't care about all of that more, because we've been saying it for a lot of years. But I think the key thing is now is you're seeing those independents and even Democrats that are going, man, not just Biden, but a lot of Democrat policies. It's disastrous, and it's scaring me. It's affecting me.
Well, and I think the way that I've heard it from Trump supporters about, I think, John, in one way, it could be said that they're trying to stack the deck, but in another way, by letting these 3 people take the fall, does that help Trump? Because folks are saying, hey, Trump was just listening to these lawyers. These lawyers said they did something bad or wrong and they pled guilty. Trump has every right to, he's not a lawyer. So if his lawyers were telling him he had good claims and they're now saying that, well, I said that and I shouldn't have, then that kind of gives Trump not a free pass, but certainly that's the way I've heard it argued, is that, hey, Trump, this could actually maybe weigh in his favor.
We play the audio coming out. Joe Biden, he was supposed to be giving kind of an extended speech, some economic conference, and after a few minutes, he said, I have to leave. I have to go to the Situation Room. I think that means bathroom. There is a text from Keith that I want to...
No.
I'll put it this way. Keith had a great joke via text, 874-9390, and he's referencing the Situation Room. Maybe it's like how Sean Connery would have pronounced the word situation. Does that make sense, John?
Makes sense. Sort of like the guy on Jersey Shore.
Yeah, like the situation, like Sean Connery would say. He walked into an interview with Barbara Walters one time back in the early 80s and said, I'm going to take a seat. I must sit down now. That's Sean Connery. And we talk about the importance of these things, especially conservative stuff, and maybe something that, most normal folks don't think about at 6:45 in the morning. But we have 3 finalists for the Missouri Supreme Court. And I'll go to the Supreme Court of the United States of America and how important that has been over the years. Trump putting 3 conservative justices on the court. I don't know they've lived up to everybody's expectations, incidentally, but we see how important that has been. And so that's why we have 3 finalists named for an opening on the Missouri Supreme Court. And this is important, too.
It really is. And there aren't going to be any more mandatory retirements for some time. So this is should be Parsons' last appointment. And of course, he just appointed Kelly Broniak to replace Judge Draper. This is to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of Judge Breckenridge. And the 3 nominees, they finished up their interviews yesterday. We had shared, there was a long list of folks and some familiar to us. But Judge Gardner, Judge Gooch, and Judge Torbinsky are all on the list. They are all, there are a lot of people on the list who maybe weren't currently serving as judges. Some are elected officials, some are folks that we know. These 3 all are sitting judges. I believe Judge Gardner and Judge Gooch were on the last panel. And so the only new name is Judge Trubinsky. There has been a lot of speculation in the political world that, and I think it came up in the interviews with Jack Goodman, who used to be elected, about, should there be more representation from the Southern District from South Missouri, because in the past, typically, or here recently, there has not been a lot of representation. My understanding is, Judge Gooch would be that Southern District candidate. Whether or not the governor feels like geographical representation is necessary, I don't know that he's publicly commented on that.
And see, this is when you announce finalists, right? When there's 3, not when there's 8 candidates for chief of police in the city of Columbia. That's not a list of finalists. You wait until there's fewer. I don't get it.
Well, the good thing in the House Speaker race in Washington, D.C., we're down to 216 finalists there.
Awesome.
So we've whittled that down. Congressman Jason Smith, he was on the House floor yesterday. Please be here at 7:35 when he joins us. He's going to give you some insight, some of the stuff that really went down.
But as the U.S. Supreme Court has kicked more and more issues down to state Supreme Courts or states themselves, the state Supreme Court is becoming ever more important. And you think about the legacy of Mike Parson. He's had 3 appointments. There are 7 judges on the Missouri Supreme Court, so 3 appointments is huge. And currently, there are only 2 judges out of 7 that were initially appointed by a Democrat. Judge Russell, of course, was appointed by Bob Holden. Paul Wilson, appointed by Jay Nixon. And again, a lot of these appointments have come up because of the 70-year mandatory retirement. The next mandatory retirement we will see is in 2028, and that would be Judge Russell, who's currently serving as the Chief Justice.
And here's why we pay attention. You've got a 7-member court, and you get some of these cases that come before justices, and we say regarding conservative values. I just call them American values. But so when they come to deciding some of these cases that affect Missourians and affect your family, that's why this matters. Last night, couple of Game 7s, American League Championship Series, National League Championship Series. I don't pay attention. Cardinals or Royals ain't in it. Don't pay attention. I paid attention to this, though. Rookie pitcher last night, John. This was so cool. His name is Branden Rathert. He's a rookie. He gets the Game 7 start. Mike.
Yeah, he got the nod, didn't he?
Yeah. And before the game, he got caught in the dugout, and he was reading a book.
Bond yields stabilized. The Dow up 204, the S&P higher by 30, the Nasdaq rising 121.
Stephanie's going to be keeping an eye on the futures for you at 8:25 when we do the Morning Bell business news with a little twist, especially like the twist yesterday that you had in the Morning Bell. That was pretty good.
Free fries on Friday.
Free fries on Friday. One of the things I'm wondering, there's a story, nice story in the Missourian about the progress of the Columbia Regional Airport. A year ago, we were there to welcome its opening, tripled the size of the terminal, larger runway, which allows larger planes to land. And I'm a big fan of the Columbia Regional Airport. Stephanie, I know you use it more often than I do. A year into it, how you feeling about it? Okay, that's all right.
I mean, it's
good.
It's beautiful.
But we need some food and we need some more flights.
It's so much better, and it's been really exciting to talk to folks who have visited Columbia from all over the nation in the past. And I said, why don't you give it another try? It's much different than when you remember coming here last, and it's really quite beautiful. And honestly, I need to knock on wood because I'm flying soon, but I have not had that many travel snafus, even with the limited number of flights. We do need more flights. That Charlotte flight, they keep talking about it. I'd like to see another airline. I know the last time I went, they have these, my understanding is they have these big shows and it's like speed dating and you get to talk to all the different airlines and try to say, hey, you should come to Columbia, Missouri. And with our new terminal, we're able to say, and look at this. And obviously that puts you in a much better position in those conversations. It doesn't sound like, those have come to fruition yet. But I know that at least they were happening. Again, I'd agree with you on the restaurant. We were supposed to get one. There's space for it. The hope was to have one. So I'm still hopeful there. The rice cakes just don't cut it. The two things, and I've talked to the airport directly about this, so I don't feel bad, is there's no cell service once you're through security. Just absolutely none. So your phone will go on SOS or when you're waiting for your bags, which I think, when you land, especially if you're in a new place, when you land, you're going to want to call somebody or call your Uber or talk to your family or say hey, I'm here, come pick me up. So that is really not great. And we had cell service at the other one. So I'm wondering what is going on. And then for me, part of it is the reason why I use that is because it cuts down on my time and I'm able to work. Well, when I get on I still like to get there a bit early, but when I get on the other side of security, I can't use my phone. I can't use Wi-Fi my computer and phone turn into bricks, which is not helpful for business travelers. So I think we have to figure that out. And I think it's easily solvable. It should be easily solvable. It's a small thing, but it really matters to travelers. The other thing is the length of time that it takes to get your bag is,
and that's why you need a cell phone to call and say, hey, I'm going to be late. It's taking a while to get my bag.
Is really frustrating. And I hear that's a staffing and an airline issue, not a COU issue necessarily, but that is something that I think that everyone should be working on getting that figured out.
Yeah, and with the passenger load limits, and I don't know the math behind it. I know the airlines, we're not coming in. Doesn't look like you have enough people flying. I don't know, but it sure seems seldomly have I been on a flight from here to Chicago or Dallas and the plane is not packed. And I'm a big fan of the flight, which we had for 2 weeks, and then the government pandemic of 2020 hit, but the flight to Denver because it helps me to get to my grandkids quicker.
And we're spoiled because if you go to Las Vegas, you get off the plane, you get in a terminal, or you have to ride the little train, then you have to walk 8 miles to the end of the terminal to get your bag. And then when you show up, guess what? Your bag comes out in a minute. But what in your mind, you didn't just wait for 20 minutes because you were on the tram and you were walking. So part of the issue is it's a 1-minute walk from getting off the plane to the bags. So if you actually, if they timed it out, the bag time is probably similar to other airports. We just don't have to walk as far.
This 25-year-old kid named Branden Rathert, rookie, Arizona Diamondbacks. Rookie gets called to pitch Game 7, which they won last night. So he's in the
Rathert.
Democracy is messy sometimes, but it is our system. This conference that you see, this House Republican majority, is united.
So that's nominee number 18 for the House speakership, Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson. Raven Harrison, RavenHarrison.com. You listen to this show, you are going to love Raven Harrison's website. You see her doing a lot of stuff on Fox. I have two questions, Raven, and we've talked about this, you and I have. We talk about democracy being messy. He said that. It's messy. How messy does it have to get, man?
Well, it is definitely messy, and they have created most of this mess themselves, but you know, Mike Johnson appears to be a really good choice for where we are right now. I'm still a firm believer that it's very telling what they did to Jim Jordan and even to Byron Daniels. But a lot of backdoor dealing, a lot of swamp being the swamp. But we will see if they can pull it forward. And I'd like to also remind him we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. That's something that I feel like I should remind Republicans all the time.
And I think about it this way, and I don't know why. Hannah always laughs at me when I say, it's kind of like a relationship. And sometimes in a relationship, you have things that are unpleasant, and you got to work through it, and it can be messy at times, but you work through it, and you like ideally what you get at the end, and ultimately isn't the relationship stronger. But the other thing then that he says here that I wanted to ask you about.
This conference that you see, this House Republican majority, is united.
How can he say it's united right now?
Well, if he meant at 8:30 last night when they were making the vote, perhaps.
Yeah.
But and I love your relationship analogy because this is also, so if that's the analogy, then Kevin McCarthy was the boyfriend who never comes back, who is always cheating on you and needs to be divorced ASAP. Right. So either way, I think we've got an upgrade, and this we need to make this opportunity, because that's what it's really about, Brandon, is we've got an opportunity to move forward. Kevin McCarthy did not keep his word. He didn't hold to the principles, and we are seeing the result of that now. The world's on fire, so we got to get this right, and we got to keep the pressure on. But this is proof, Patriots, that it works.
Well, and I think and over the last couple of weeks, we heard from you, Raven, we got to do something new. The status quo isn't working. So, it sounds like you are feeling positive this morning about this. I want to ask you in particular about something that Mike Johnson said last night. He said, we're going to restore your trust in what we do, and you're going to see a new form of government. What do you think that new form of government looks like, and what are you hoping for?
Well, what we're hoping for is initially what we had, a two-party system. The Democrats are supposed to represent what they represented, which is not. They've gone full left communism. And then we're supposed to have the right, which are supposed to be fiscal conservative. They're supposed to be limited government. They're supposed to be pro-freedom. And they've just rolled over. So hopefully this is the beginning. Restoring the trust, it takes time. I'll believe it when I see it. Right now, I don't believe anything that comes out of the Capitol, even for people that I like. I mean, this is they've shown that very few of them have the guts to stand for what they were elected. I think they're realizing now that the tide has changed. The tide of you guys going into the Capitol and just kind of doing whatever and then making a great speech is over. The American people are watching, they're engaged, and they're letting you know they're sick of it. So we'll see if they've learned something. But you know me, I'll be here to make sure that they do.
Amen. As a matter of fact, I want to relay part of an interesting personal conversation I had with Raven yesterday, and how she answered the phone when I called her yesterday. Our guest right now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Raven Harrison, RavenHarrison.com.
Raven, we've seen so many people out there, members of the Wake Up family and listeners and all, just say, gosh, throwing their hands up with this whole debate. You think these guys on Capitol Hill can get this one done in less than 15 sessions of voting?
They can if we make them. What does Reagan say? Trust but verify. What we have to do is we just have to keep the pressure. This is not because the politicians decided to get it together and do. It's because we pushed back on them hard. We let them know that this status quo, what's the secret ballot about? And I blasted them. I called all of my reps and go, secret ballot equals cheating. The speaker is not something you do behind closed doors in the basement of the Capitol. That's something you do out in the open unless you are trying to cheat. And that's where we are. It's just making sure they hold on task, which typically we haven't done. So I think, yes, this time we're loud enough that we're going to get something done. And change is uncomfortable, but we got to stay the course. We can't turn on each other and start eating each other. That's what the Democrats are counting on. But we can do it. It's just proof that it can be done. Emmers was a shoo-in. He's gone today. We can do it.
I'm anxious to hear from Congressman Jason Smith, widely considered Missouri's third U.S. Senator because he chairs the House Ways and Means Committee. He's joining us 7:35. Hope you will join us here at 7:35 on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. He was there. I want to get some of the other insight. I called Raven yesterday, and here's how she answered the phone. She didn't say hello. She didn't say, hey, Brandon, how you doing? I called her. She says, Brandon, I'm in Florida right now. I'm getting public opinion on this stuff and this crap with Tom Emmers and the secret votes. And I felt like you were lighting in, like you lit into me. And I know that wasn't the case, but that's how passionate you are about this stuff. That's why I encourage you to get on to RavenHarrison.com. She is like this nonstop fighting for us. Tell us a little bit about, because we talk about this, in effect, this secret, treasonous secret ballot. And you can find a story at RavenHarrison.com. How does that even work?
Well, what you have is people trying to bend the Constitution to suit their needs. So Kevin McCarthy has been very instrumental of trying to set up either McCarthy 2.0 or find a way back to the gavel. That's been very apparent. So what they're doing, the first was to get, McHenry more power, to expand his power, which is beyond the scope of the Constitution. The people pushed back on that. So then it was to get a candidate that they said a compromise candidate. We don't compromise with communists. So they tried to work with the Democrats to get somebody they like, and that's where Emmers came up. Someone who believes in abolishing the Electoral College, someone who actually worked for George Soros. Absolutely horrible politician they put in, and they thought he was a shoo-in, and we pushed back. So then they did a secret ballot. They went from going outwardly against Jim Jordan to a secret ballot in the basement of the Congress, where all of a sudden it went from 25 to 108 people who didn't support the popular vote, where the people had said, we want Jim Jordan. Given this, we didn't want McCarthy, and it was absolutely horrific. There's no constitutional precedent for that. So what you have is a lot of political posturing. The lobbyists descended on the Capitol after Jim Jordan became the nominee and just literally made deals with everybody they could. And it was sickening to watch, but it's going to right itself.
A lobbyist, Stephanie and I, recently looking at some polling specifically to Missouri. We had Clean Missouri passed a couple years ago. It's supposed to be ethics reform, and it was interesting because on Friday I had a conversation with a lobbyist who was throwing a party for Mizzou's homecoming, and some of those in attendance, which were Mizzou alum, were coming to the house, and they were going to grill steaks. They had to bring their own food because this person was a lobbyist, and largely folks felt like Clean Missouri has really done nothing to clean up ethics in Missouri. So I think that's an interesting point that you bring up. Stephanie first reported in the Daily D.C. Rundown, 625, what's happening in D.C. She does it every morning at 625, but she was one of the first to report feds going in and cutting barriers to help protect Americans from illegal immigrants, which now include terrorists. Over the weekend, Border Patrol, in effect, twice saying, hey, we are on super high alert because of Hamas and terrorists trying to come into this country. They've already been doing it. I know you live in Texas. You travel the country most of your time spent in Texas. You are in Texas. What do we need to know about the reality of what's happening there?
What the reality is we are in a power struggle. So now that we've stopped the political posturing against Ken Paxton, who they tried to impeach, the swamp tried to raise against him, he's back to suing Biden. I have seen this. We have video of this, of actual DPS, of people, our Homeland Security, cutting razor wire and pulling it to the side to allow these people in. But the number of apprehensions is almost 300 of known terrorists that have come in over the past month. It has been absolutely, Biden sued to get those buoys in the river removed so that the migrants could pass in easily. So he is saying he's finishing the border wall, which he's not. But it's been a struggle, even declaring an invasion. The troops aren't there. They're spread too thin. So our border is still open, and the Biden administration is telling people outwardly that they're attempting to secure the border, and in actuality, they're cutting razor wire, they're moving barriers, they are waving people in and getting them work permits and letting them just disperse across the country.
Yeah, I think you're right on the border. I mean, something has to be done, but I guess before we can do much, we really need to get a speaker. Also, on yesterday, the tearful statement by Jenna Ellis in court. I'm interested to get your thoughts on that, Raven, and what you think that of the recent, I guess, guilty pleas, what effect that might have on Trump, if any.
Well, I think it's definitely not a good look, but I'm disappointed, to say the honest truth, because I understand. I understand when, even if they're trumped up fake charges, you will never know how you feel until your government, who is supposed to be working for you, comes down on you with a hammer and says, you know, we're going to take your money, we're going to put you in jail, you're going to remove you from your family. I think Jenna Ellis is a little bit different because she took a lot of money to take this plea deal, so I find her disingenuous personally. But as far as the other ones, like Sidney Powell and the ones they are leaning on, I just want people to understand this is communism. When they come to you and say, hey, we've trumped up some charges and, you know, you're going to bury, and they're all in it, and it's at the direction of Biden and his DOJ of telling them to go after political opponents. And that's the best way to do it. Self-sacrifice is easy. It's having to sacrifice somebody you love that puts your convictions to the test. So if they're coming after your children and they're coming after your families and they're saying, hey, you take this deal, you turn on the orange man and we'll give you your life back. That's where you have to make the decision. And we as free people have to decide, because this is where it starts.
And does
And
anybody?
if we allow this to stand, that's where it'll go.
Does anybody get tired of hearing me say, and it matters? That's why we should, under no circumstances, should Democrats be elected, because they want to do things like cut down the barriers.
Yes.
We're in the midst of terrorist threats of people coming
Correct.
through the Mexico border, and it matters because for the safety of you and your kids and your grandbabies, it's very important. Raven Harrison, 30 seconds. Anything that you can leave us with that's positive this morning?
Well, let me just give you one quick negative, and then I'll give you the positive. I want people to understand that this is the play. Biden is letting these people in, and he knows that a terrorist attack is imminent. We're on high alert. So then what happens is we have an attack on our soil, and then they declare martial law, and they steal elections and say, okay, well, we got to lock it down, stay in power, because now we're at war. That's the play. So tell patriots not to fall for it. But the positive is, it looks like small steps, but we are winning. It's working. Simply the power of the people. No violence, no riots. You know, we are getting it done. So patriots, hold the line. It's not easy, but it's worth it. America is worth fighting for.
Check out the website, man. Stuff like this all over the place at ravenharrison.com. Raven, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Going to miss you, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to miss you, too. Coming up 5 minutes from now. I didn't sound real enthusiastic there, did I? Seriously, I am going to miss Raven Harrison, too. Coming up, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah at 7:25-ish.
Murfreesboro, Tennessee is the bomb.
How come? We're going to find out. 25-ish, which means it's
7:26.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Murfreesboro, Tennessee is the bomb. And it's because they had a bomb investigation yesterday morning around 9:30. They started receiving multiple 911 calls saying that there was a bomb strapped to a car near a shopping plaza. So as you can imagine, after receiving multiple calls, there was a lot of first responder turnout for this one. They evacuated the shopping center. They put the local schools on lockdown because there were lots of wires and duct tape attached to this car that was parked at the shopping plaza. For 2 hours, they sat there and watched this unfold. The fire marshal's office came in, ATF, highway patrol, fire department, everyone.
Kind of a big deal for a smallish town about an hour southeast of Nashville. Everybody's does 2 hours this is going on.
Yeah. An officer finally makes contact with the person associated with the plates on the car. Turns out this person had been in the crowd of people who had been evacuated from the stores and was just watching this unfold. They didn't know their car was involved. And they contact the driver, and the guy goes, "Oh, yeah, that's my car. It's a dent deterrent system." And he just had a bunch of duct tape and like rubber padding attached to the handles on his car to keep people from door dinging him. And since there were loose wires and duct tape hanging out, it kind of looked a little suspicious, and it fooled multiple people and multiple agencies into thinking that there was a bomb strapped to this guy's little car.
It's dent prevention.
Yeah. Over 2 hours of evacuation protocols and calling, drone teams in, ATF. It was just a homemade dent detection system.
I wonder if it works.
This was probably not the desired effect he was going for.
Well, if the point is not to dent your car, then it's like to have your car look nice because you really care about your car, except you covered it in trash and duct tape.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if you're that dude, how do you recover from that when they figure out it's you and you're standing there? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
It reminds me, I was at some soccer field areas this weekend, and like someone's car alarm was going off, and everyone's like slowly walking over to the parking lot, like, "Is that mine?" And like the person whose it was taking forever, and was like, "Oh, it's not mine." And I'm like, it's embarrassing, and you're like, it's got to be somebody. So I think that person was just in the crowd, and finally someone was like, "Joe, it's you, buddy."
Yeah, the fact that he was in the crowd of onlookers and it took him 2 hours to realize, hey, that's my car.
What's worse when you're at a big event like that and everybody's looking around, all right, whose car alarm's going off? Somebody turn it off, please. Looking around and you realize you're the offender, or when you're in a meeting and your cell phone goes off and
It was outside the circle of civilized human behavior. And if it happened to your family, you would want justice. I'm not talking about revenge. I'm saying justice.
Wow. Guy who works with, that's Nancy Pelosi. Israel deserves justice, but not revenge. When I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Congressman Jason Smith, Rep. Southeast Missouri, widely considered our third U.S. Senator, I think that continues the Democratic progressive argument. Well, Israel shouldn't be protecting itself right now. Am I hearing that differently than you are?
It's what it sounds like to me. Justice, what happened to more than 1,000 people of Jewish faith in Israel, where mothers and daughters were tortured, murdered, kids were killed. This is nothing but terrorists that have came after Israel, and we need to make sure that they're eliminated. It's not about revenge. It's about eliminating terrorists.
And that's the thing that's got to be frustrating, I know, because you're working with some of these progressive members that it's just it's frightening, actually. I say it's sad or it's angering, but it's frightening, like the Omars and Tlaibs and how, in effect, they're backing this stuff. How is that for you? I mean, you're rubbing elbows with these people sometimes. What's that like?
Yeah, I'm not rubbing elbows with these people because these people are delusional nuts. I clearly will not associate with them. They're the same people who believes that our police officers are enemies. They're the same people who believe that Hamas, the people that targeted and killed over 1,000 Israeli people, that they should not be held accountable for. It's absolutely insane. We have seen Tlaib lead the insurrectionists here at the Capitol just last week. They came in and they obstructed the official proceedings of legislative business by protesting. Over 300 people had to be arrested. These people are crazy.
Yeah, and it matters because we talk about the border and how this is, and these Democrat policies, it's affecting our safety as Americans. It's affecting your safety. No reason right now that we should be supporting these Democrats and progressives. Congressman Jason Smith joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, producer Hannah. I am Branden Rathert. John Marsh is here too.
Congressman, where are we at with the legislation that you co-authored to block Iran from accessing the $6 billion in funds that were going to be unfrozen?
There's a lot of support, and it's bipartisan support. So that is extremely important. Unfortunately, everything has been at a standstill in the House of Representatives. The Senate's not being able to pass this yet, but in the House, we've been at a standstill since we don't have a speaker, but I expect that today at noon we will elect the Speaker of the House, which will be Mike Johnson.
Congressman, we appreciate you joining us. Of course, you chair Ways and Means, and first Missourian to chair that since Congressman Phelps back in 1859. That's a pretty big deal to have a Missourian in that position. And you write this on Twitter yesterday. You were talking about the Biden administration's new recommended poverty measures. You say it's going to basically mean that a family in Alabama has to make less than one in California to get services like school lunch in food stamps. And you write this, Congressman, one sentence, quote, "This is about robbing resources from rural America to benefit coastal elites," end of quote. If you could elaborate, please.
Yeah, yesterday we had a work and welfare subcommittee hearing in the Ways and Means Committee, and I actually made those comments at that committee hearing where we were analyzing these proposed metrics that the administration is trying to put forward. And the devil's in the details. This is not something that would be on the front page of most newspapers, but this will affect millions of Americans, especially those living in rural areas. They're trying to change the level of where people qualify for food stamps, where people qualify for Medicaid. For example, a family of four in the state of Alabama, if they're under $32,300 of the poverty level, that's how they qualify for food stamps or Medicaid. However, if you live in California, you qualify for the same programs making less than $47,000 a year, a $15,000 difference. That is extremely troublesome because that's basically saying the people in Alabama should be poorer before they qualify for food stamps or Medicaid compared to the people who live in California. That's not America. That's unacceptable.
Do you think that's constitutional, though? I mean, can they do that?
Let me tell you, I have seen so many bad things up here, but the problem is whenever bad laws are passed, when bad laws are passed, in order to get them stopped, it requires years of judicial proceedings. And by then, people, the horse is out of the barn, and it's so disruptive. So we got to get it stopped now before it ever takes an effect. People should be treated the same, whether they're in California, whether they're in Missouri, Alabama, Iowa, or South Dakota. Treat them the same.
Congressman Jason Smith on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You graduated from Mizzou. By the way, Ashley Emmel, who's a co-host sometimes here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Compass Chiropractic, she says hello. You graduated from Mizzou. As you look around what's happening on some of these colleges, we see folks are pulling their donations because these colleges aren't pushing back on these students who are protesting some of this crazy stuff, showing support for Hamas. What is your reaction to that?
That is so disheartening. I mean, we have seen time and time again that publicly funded universities with tax-free endowments have focused on preferred speech rather than freedom of speech. But what they're doing right now at not disavowing these individuals protesting in support of murdering of the Jewish people, that's in fact what these people are doing on these college campuses. And the fact they've had professors come out and say that it was, they were actually thrilled. The Cornell professor was thrilled that there was thousands of people, thousands of Israelis attacked and murdered. And the fact that these university personnel, these administrators, these chancellors, these presidents, they disavow every other type of speech, but they're not disavowing this. Let me tell you, there's certain preferences that universities get, such as special tax treatment. And I'll tell you, as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee with sole jurisdiction over tax policy, we're going to look underneath the hood of all this special tax treatment that these universities have. And the ones that are violating where freedom of speech is not properly being addressed and where they're focused on preferred speech, they might just lose their tax status.
And I don't hate to belabor the point about what's happening in the House. You were there, and I do have two more questions about that. What can you tell us? We see the stuff on the TV, read the stuff in the papers, but what can you, like a nugget of info that we're not seeing on TV, that we're not hearing in the news? You're there, you're seeing it. What can you pass along to our audience?
Well, I'll tell you, probably the best part of what's going on right now is that, yeah, it's been a journey the last 3 weeks without a speaker. This has never happened in the history of Congress, and we should have never got to that point. But unfortunately, 100% of the Democrats voted to oust a Republican speaker, along with 8 Republicans did it. So that's why we're where we are. But I can tell you, last night and yesterday, we spent the whole day planning a course forward. We're putting up Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House at noon today, and I have no doubt that he will be confirmed and will become the next Speaker of the House. So that's a positive thing. Then we can move forward and start addressing funding for Israel. We can start addressing policies that help support our southern border and protect our southern border, and policies that affect all Americans who are struggling just to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. That is what we need to be focused on. I'm glad we'll have the speaker today, and then we can move forward.
Well, but I've heard a lot of confidence. Scalise, I'm confident Scalise is going to be elected. I'm confident Jordan's going to be elected. I'm confident it's going to be this guy. Why are you so confident about this guy? Because we've heard this for 3 weeks now about the next in line.
Yeah, you heard this from national media. You haven't heard this from me. Rest assured, when you see this afternoon, Mike Johnson will be the next Speaker of the House. You heard it from me. I'm telling you, I know the Republican conference. I know what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen.
Brandon's ready to place a bet, I think. But we did hear from Mike Johnson last night that he expects to enact a new form of government. Any, insight as to what he meant by those comments? What is that new form of government?
Let me just go back. Mike Johnson, his first leadership position in the House of Representatives was chairman of the Republican Study Committee. That's the largest conference in the entire House Republicans. It's the conservative caucus. I was the one who gave his nominating speech for him to become chairman of that several years ago. So this is a gentleman that I know very well. He's honorable. He's smart. He understands all the different issues and viewpoints, whether it's the more moderate Republicans or the more conservative Republicans. And he knows how to bring people together. He has a proven track record with that. And I'm excited. I think that he is the right person at the right time to step up to lead this broken conference, for one.
All right, Congressman, we're running out of time here, but a couple of more important questions we want to ask Congressman Jason Smith on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Congressman, how concerned are you with the bulletin put out by Homeland Security and the FBI to be on alert for what they called homegrown extremists in light of the Israel-Hamas war?
I'll tell you what I'm very concerned of is not as much as the homegrown extremists, but the extremists that are crossing the southern border as we speak. We have seen over 130 known documented people on the terrorist watch list that has crossed through the southern border in just the last year. That is a huge concern. And these people, how many came across that we didn't catch? Where are they in the country? What is their plan and their objective? What happened in Israel was so unexpected, and it led to the loss of over 1,000 lives, being children, grandmas. It was horrendous. And so we have to be on high alert. We have to pay attention because we are in a huge threat. We have the Iranians attacking our U.S. bases. Over 20 military members have been injured just in the last week from the Iranians. People are looking and focused on attacking U.S. citizens, so we need to be careful.
All right, 15 seconds, Congressman. Leave us with some hope this morning.
You know what? I am so excited about those Missouri Tigers. I mean, they're 16th in the nation. They're going to be playing Georgia in 2 weeks. I like for people to underestimate me. I like for people to underestimate my teams, and I think that Georgia may not like it when the Tigers come down to Georgia.
Congressman Jason Smith, Southeast Missouri.
M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
Z-O-U.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right, take care.
All right, we'll catch up with you next time. Coming up a few minutes from now. And that would be all except for this. What do you have for us this morning, Marsh?
Mike Lindell and my crusty
as bond yields stabilized. The Dow up 204, the S&P higher by 30, the Nasdaq rising 121.
And right now, Stephanie Bell already on all these fancy websites monitoring the opening bell. We'll look at futures in the morning bell business news with a little twist at 8:25.
I have a business idea for you. If you're in a little bit of a slump, it's making money for others. Maybe it could work for us right here on Wake Up.
And that would be all, except for this.
Well, somebody probably has a blankie that's kind of turned to tatters over the years. Other folks out there, that childhood stuffed animal they can't part with. Now there are a select few who favor their trusty and crusty yellow pillow. Cam Thompson's one of the guys. Says his girlfriend's mad at him because he unearthed what he calls simply the yellow pillow. And says it's not my fault my pillow's yellow. It bestows on me the most peaceful slumber. And part of being a man is using the same pillow since age 10 and never washing it. And he said, I got rid of my yellow pillows maybe a year ago, and I haven't rested comfortably since. Another guy says, seasoned like a fine cast iron pan. To which the ladies exclaimed, why does every single man own one of these? They say the discoloration is not revolting. It may be a sign of aging and a buildup of moisture from sweat, oil, lotions, and drool. Even going to bed with wet hair can cause discoloration. So, Mike Lindell, maybe a whole new opportunity for you. And that's the rest of that kind of grungy story.
See, this is one of those stories that we all know is gross, but 100% of people listening right now are like, yeah, I have one of those pillows.
I have seen one, yes. I don't know that I have any.
By the way,
that is gross.
And not to give a free plug for the folks at My Pillow, but have My Pillows. And,
I do too.
Yeah, and they're pretty good. They're pretty nice.
You're good at soaking up the drool. So,
my goodness.
I will say My Pillow and my sheets are all stained from self-tanner, and the ladies out there will know the struggle. So it's not drool or anything else, but if, it's that fake tan, they told us that we can no longer go in the sun, and they didn't tell us how you keep your sheets clean and do your self-tanner all the time.
I mean, we all have
Get
that
out
one.
the spray gun.
Yeah, we all have that one crusty, dusty pillow. And I am at the point in my life where if we go on a road trip and I forget to pack my pillow, I can't sleep. I'm getting old.
I'm that same old lady. I have to take my pillow everywhere.
I'm a germaphobe. Even my own germs kind of freak me out. But I thank goodness for the Wake Up Mid-Missouri audience and the texts that you send us at 874-9390, because we need something profound from listener Doug, who puts it in the simplest terms. He says, or just throw your pillows in the washer once a month.
Can you do that?
Yeah, does that work?
Yeah. See, I use like the heavy memory foam pillows,
Same.
so I don't know if I could get away with that.
Wash it once a month. It takes the other 29 days to dry out.
Right.
You take it to the car wash and spray it down.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Hauswirth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I want to thank you, and I'm going to leave you now with Secretary Gina Raimondo, who's been the engine behind this effort. And she's going to lead the discussion with representatives from these tech hubs on the screen behind me for all of you to see. I apologize. I have to go to the Situation Room with another issue.
It's Joe Biden speaking at some economic conference. He was supposed to speak for a while. He said, well, I got to go to the Situation Room. And it makes me wonder, anything, maybe the Situation Room is at the bathroom?
Little boy's Situation Room.
That's what I'm wondering. It would not be out of the realm of possibility. So that was Joe Biden. I just kind of thought it was funny because it does have that look, and it's not about his age or anything like that. It's just, that's consistent. And I'm sure
you gotta go.
That's right. Can you imagine? As a matter of fact, Stephanie Bell has a big event tonight. She's going to be emceeing. She'll be up front and center with Zach Paul from KRCG, Weather Dude, on our CBS affiliate. Can you imagine Stephanie Bell up there with Zach Paul? And our next event, I have to go to the Situation Room. We do want to tell you about that. So here's a couple of things coming up here in the next few minutes on the show. Stephanie Bell is going to be at an event tonight. Want to tell you about that. There's only 2 of these left this year in Mid-Missouri, and Dirty Pillows. That's what people.
It's gone viral.
Well, every morning John does something about 7:50. It's called That Would Be All Except for This. Just one of those little stories, get you into work with kind of a fun little laugh, something you can share with your coworkers. And guess what people are texting about? Dirty pillows.
Crusty pillows, to be exact.
I was telling Hannah, I'm like, man, I think I get squeamish about that kind of stuff. I get squeamish about bodily function stories and things like that. And I'm like, this freaks me out. The story that John had, and we'll get to it again in case you missed it. This freaks me out more than bodily function stories. So there are a couple of events. Matter of fact, folks I know looking for, hey, what are we going to do with the kids for Halloween? Stephanie's got 3 kids. She's going to be doing some Halloween stuff with. Big event coming up in Jefferson City. Want to bring in Jim Dyke. His work, his cartoon work, man. Great cartoons. One recently that I kind of enjoyed. It was one Jimmy Buffett. And he's up at the pearly gates or whatever, and it says welcome to paradise. There's a cheeseburger. It was a great Jimmy Buffett cartoon. Does great stuff with the Jefferson City News Tribune, and also helps out with the show that we do on Saturdays with Hal Dooley on one of our radio stations with Cotton Stone Gallery. And we do appreciate their sponsorship of that. But big event coming up this weekend. What do you got for us, Jim?
Hey, Brandon. We're going to do. It's called a Capital City Sweet Treat, High Street Trick or Treat. And we trick or treat along High Street for as many blocks as people and businesses and stores want to be open. We got a long list here.
Yeah, that's all right.
You don't want to hear that list?
No. But what?
Well, I just want you to know it's just not me. It's not just my gallery. There's all the way down for blocks, and then later in the day you can meander over to the governor's mansion. Who gets to do that other than Jefferson City people?
That's right. As a matter of fact, that governor's event that they do for the kids,
Parson Family Festival.
Yeah, and that's a really big event. We get folks from all over that come for that. It's a good time for the kids. So all up and down High Street. About what time, Jim?
Starting at 11 until 2. And, some years I look out and I think, hope anybody comes. And then right at 11, there's a wall of people coming from the west, and they just keep coming down our block. And then
Jim, how many kids have you had over the years?
As many as 6,000, we're guessing. You can't count them all, but that's the guesstimation people have had.
All right, and it's a cool thing. It's a cool event. One of the reasons I believe in something like this is then hopefully folks will be spending money in downtown Jefferson City. Local, small businesses. We talk about it all the time here on the show. One of those events, Jim Dyke, cartoonist, Jefferson City News Tribune, Cotton Stone Gallery coming up Saturday. It starts at 11, and then you can head over to the governor's mansion. Jim, thanks, and keep up the good work in the newspaper, man.
Hey, are you going to be here?
I will be in Idaho carving pumpkins with my grandkids.
Well, send Stephanie Bell in costume. Send her down here.
All right. Hey,
You got it.
We appreciate you. Stephanie Bell's actually going to be in costume. Are you going to be in costume tonight? What's this event happening?
I will kind of be in costume tonight. It's the Rape and Abuse Crisis Service Masquerade Gala. So I will be dressed fancy, but I will have a mask. Now, do you recall what you wore last year?
A mask.
But not a masquerade mask. You had a COVID mask.
That's right. So I get fuddy-duddy about this stuff, but anytime I have the opportunity to go and support racks and things that Stephanie Bell does, I go. And to be, I don't know, ironic, the mask I wore to the masquerade ball was a surgical mask.
Yeah, my understanding is actually the event sold out, so that's really exciting for racks. They've got a great board. They're doing great work. And what one thing people don't know about racks, people think about how large their service area is, which requires a lot of resources. They serve folks in 9 central Missouri counties. Their service area is more than 5,000 square miles, and they're just doing incredible work. They've got some new initiatives, which I think they're going to talk about tonight, and I'm hoping we can talk more about tomorrow. And I had a chance to sit down with their director a couple months ago and was really moved by some of these things that they're really seeking to do to serve the mid-Missouri community.
They really do some neat outreach, kind of proactive things to keep people from getting into those domestic violence situations all the way down to high school kids, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's important work that they do. So if you're at that event tonight, Stephanie Bell is going to be there along with KRCG's weather dude, Zach Paul. I don't think that's the Chiron they put up on the TV. I think it says meteorologist Zach Paul. I don't think it says weather dude.
He'll answer to weather dude.
Yeah. I think he will. Also, producer Hannah's going to be there. So.
That'd be great. I know that it'll be a great event. That's always usually packed. And Phil Freeman, who runs Freeman Mortuary, I know has been involved. A lot of people involved in the business community and helping racks over the years as well. But the Parson Family Festival, by the way, is going to be Saturday, and I'll have more of a preview on that on Friday. But that'll be a big, big deal. Children 12 and under can trick-or-treat in costume. They don't want any children over 12 in costume.
And we heard from Jim Dyke about how many people he had, but I have stood in the line at the Parson Family Festival. I mean, there are tons of people that show up, and I will say they do a really good job of kind of moving you through the different stations. So if you see a big line, it's worth it. I think last time I went, we got to decorate and got free pumpkins. I know Scholastic was there handing out free books. I think they even had some animals, and it was like a petting zoo. There was just so many different things for a mom of busy little kiddos. It's a great time.
Steph, I keep meaning to ask you, do you think I'll get in trouble if I don't have a masquerade mask tonight?
Ooh, I have several. I can bring one. You can borrow one.
Or you can borrow the mask that I wore last year. Welcome.
It's kind of crusty, kind of like those pillows.
Well, that was my next question. So here's what folks are texting about this morning, and before we move forward.
Hope you're done with breakfast.
Yeah. Congressman Jason Smith was on the show here about half an hour ago, and he said, I think twice in no uncertain terms, he is beyond confident that Mr. Mike Johnson, the Republican congressman from Louisiana, is going to be elected. We even asked him to clarify because we said, well, what's different this time? Because I heard people say, we're confident Scalise's going to be elected. And then when he wasn't, we're confident that Jordan is going to be elected. He wasn't. And then the next, we're confident. But he was strong about this point.
He was ready to bet your salary, I think, that was going to happen. But, one thing that I think is really positive for Missouri is, we saw the tweet from Mark Alford yesterday saying, hey, I'm excited for my friend to be the speaker. And we heard from Congressman Smith today, hey, when he got nominated for this other role, I gave the speech saying he should be the guy. So I like the fact that our Missouri folks are close to potentially to this new speaker. I think that bodes well for our state.
And actually, Mark Alford, as of about 45 minutes ago on Twitter, he said, today is the day we elect Mike Johnson as the 56th Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives.
So then I get real curious. So what is, because we talk about the influence, Raven Harrison, who was here about an hour ago, she was talking about the influence of lobbyists when they said it's this guy, and then all of a sudden the lobbyists who were in D.C. started descending there not accosting House members, but all of a sudden the lobbyist, and then that's why Jordan wasn't speaker. So I wonder why is everybody all of a sudden super confident about this one? It makes me wonder what happens behind the scenes. And I wonder about y'all's sense of humor. John did a story 7:50 this morning. We do it every morning. That would be all except for this, something fun and different. And what was your story this morning?
Mike Lindell and his crusty old yellow pillow.
And it was something about folks that keep their pillows forever and
way too long.
Way too long.
Which I would argue that everyone is guilty of this, but no one wants to admit it.
There you are.
Catherine texted 874-9390. She's admitting it. Yes, I've enabled my husband of 34 years to keep his childhood pillow by washing it. By the way, and Doug, with this profound thought, well, just wash it once a month. And the My Pillow specifically, I know you can wash. And by the way, would highly recommend that. And then the other question I have, Stephanie was talking about when you use self-tanner, which she does. So you say it leaves stuff on the pillow.
And the sheets.
So here's what I'm wondering, like when you wake up in the morning, is it like a chalk outline of a dead body on a sidewalk from where
Or is it more like skid marks?
My whole half of the bed is like bright orange. It's like Trump. It's just like orange dye. Sorry about that.
The spray tan industry loves both of you.
Apparently there's a product on Amazon that you can buy and like you sleep in like a body bag basically so it won't get on your sheets. I'll just get new sheets.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Right?
874, and I know you might be thinking, why are we talking about dirty pillows? Because it's what Mid-Missouri is talking about via text, 874-9390.
Seasoned like a fine cast iron pan, the guy said.
And keeping chiropractors in business since 1950.
I appreciate the Wake Up family members who are weighing in on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page. I posted the question, do you have any old crusty pillows you refuse to get rid of? And it was one of those, nobody commented for a while, and I got nervous thinking no one was going to fess up. But the comments are starting to roll in. And Topher says, mine looks like a Civil War bandage, and it's oh so comfy.
But some things are just better worn in. I wonder, like, what's the oldest thing? Like, not like something that you inherited, but that like was yours that you think you have. And my grandma she was a kind of a quilter, and she used all these scraps to make this quilt. And honestly, it was really kind of ugly, like just patchwork. I mean, it just didn't match it. It was just all the scraps. And I slept with it for years, so much that it like wore holes in it, and I had it kind of preserved and put into like a small baby blanket. But like, I mean, I loved that thing, right? And so I think but the pillow, I don't know that I could do that. But I wonder what else are you hanging on to that you probably
like really old stuff, or like the oldest. You ever pull a shirt out of the closet and go, my goodness, I've had that shirt for quite a few years.
You're like, it's got crusty underarms too.
Look at this, Rolling Stones 1984 T-shirt.
How about that?
Gross.
My husband still has his choir T-shirts from middle school.
Those need to be made into a quilt.
I have said the same thing. He refuses to do anything with them other than hang them in the closet.
Or like when you wear a shirt from an event and the shirt has the year on it from the event, like 2017.
I have a Truman State shirt that's like says like 2004. I'm like, I'm giving away my age.
If we put if the camera's on, does it show your shirt, Hannah? If we get a camera shot for folks watching on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri channels, give us.
Ironically, this is my husband's shirt.
All right.
Says California Fire Department. I didn't know where that was in 2017 when I was in high school. So,
coming up. Morning Bell, business news, little twist. Only Stephanie can give you.
Every once in a while, I'm convinced I have ADHD because I like hyperfixate on things. And if you noticed, I was hyperfixated.
Hannah and I have fact-checked this, by the way.
I think I do.
Beyond hyperfixated. Am I right, Hannah?
Yup.
Like weirdly fixated on things sometimes. Am I right, Hannah?
Yup.
Yep.
It was Elon for a bit, but now I think I'm hyperfixated on the Sphere. What's new with the Sphere in Las Vegas?
All right, John Marsh, biggest fan of the Stones. I know this is for you. This is some of the new stuff from Rolling Stones from the CD Hackneyed Diamonds. This song is Get morning, it's time for the Morning Bell. Business news with a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
It's a mixed bag this morning for the futures. Dow almost up 0.25%, NASDAQ down more than 0.5%, and S&P falling there in the middle. If your business is down, I got an idea for you. The Sphere is on the bandwagon. Now, we've heard about the shows and how expensive it is to get yourself on the outside of the Sphere. So while they're selling advertising, they're now doing their own advertising, but it's kind of an insider deal. So they have agreed to do a patch on the New York Knicks. Now, this is interesting because the Sphere and Madison Square Garden and the Knicks are all owned by the same guy, James Dolan, so it's kind of a free advertising for him. But apparently, and I didn't know this patch business. I mean, if I was like the NBA, I would just like, my jersey would be like a Girl Scout, because apparently it's very lucrative. I think they have rules, and I think you can only have one patch, but it's a fairly recent program. And now they're saying, and it's starting to get into these new, I think the Sphere, will be the first like entertainment venue to have a patch. Mr. Beast partnered with Charlotte Hornets with Feastables, and he was kind of the first influencer to get a patch. There's still several teams without patches if you're interested. I think they were, when he was, James Dolan was out there saying, hey, we need a sponsor for the Knicks. I think it was going for like a cool 30 mil. I'm assuming since he owns them all, he didn't pay 30 mil for that. But the NBA is saying the program's been super lucrative for the teams. And now the program is worth nearly $250 million.
And the Sphere that Stephanie is talking about, and I don't know how to describe it. She's been there, but it's this big, giant kind of an entertainment. It's beyond giant in Las Vegas. How would you describe what the Sphere is?
It's a sphere, and it lights
There's
up.
Concerts. Okay.
They've got it lit up, looks like the Earth from outer space at night, doesn't it?
It does. So it's like the video is insane on the inside.
Jason Smith on the show 1 hour ago saying that here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and he said it twice. Matter of fact, whenever we opened up our conversation with him, he sounded super confident, and we asked again, like, well, what's different about this? Because I think we heard the same thing. What did we hear whenever they put up Scalise?
That they were confident.
What did we hear when they put up Jordan?
He's going to get it.
And then the next guy.
Nope.
And then the next guy. But now they're confident.
But Congressman Smith said, hey, you heard that from the national news media, not from me.
Yeah.
And so, but I do wonder what changed. I don't, because it was weird yesterday. I mean, it was so weird. They did the voting. We got the guy. Trump posted against the guy. And then suddenly we have a new guy that's name wasn't in the mix originally. And now everyone's like, yeah, it's that guy. I mean, something changed.
And that's and I agree with you. It's like, I just think it's weird, John. Like, all of a sudden, now we're super confident. And I don't know what the other folks in D.C. are saying. Hannah, you said you found a tweet from Mark Alford, and it feels confident, too.
Oh, yeah, there is no doubt about it. Mark Alford said we will be electing him today.
Man, let's hope they're on the money. But boy, oh boy, after we saw the whole Kevin McCarthy thing, boy, I have my doubts.
Then again, I think we've all been in that situation where, like, the solution is right in front of your face and it seems like a struggle and you can't figure it out. And then you kind of have an epiphany and you're like, duh, that works, right? And so maybe that's, I think he wasn't really in the mix, and then everyone's kind of like, well, what about that guy? And it's not so much like they're that excited. It's like there's no big objectors to him.
Yeah. So the good news is we're down to, there's only about 216 other options at this point, because we've been through just about everybody else. So the other thing I think people are saying is, who's Mike Johnson? He's a Republican congressman. He is from Louisiana, latest Republican nominee for House Speaker. He was an attorney. He's a staunch opponent of abortion, staunch opponent of medicinal marijuana, staunch opponent of same-sex marriage, and also happens to be a former talk radio show host. He has served as the vice chair of the House Republican Conference. So because of what Alford and Congressman Jason Smith are saying, they're that confident on things, I'm willing to bet some more of producer Hannah's salary. Mike Johnson. Of
course you are.
Mike Johnson will be elected again today. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
It's producer Hannah.
Hola.
John Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. I wonder if parents, if this is a thing yet. Stephanie, I don't know if your kids are old enough for this yet, if this has become a dilemma for you at this point. Want to mention this. There's only 2 of these left. Only 2. Only 2 more Tiger tailgates. We do this prior to every Mizzou home game. Mizzou is going to be a while before they're back home. They're off this week. Then they go to the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs, and after that they come home. And 2 hours prior to that kickoff, we feed you with Buffalo Wild Wings, free Bud Light, and High Noon. Our friends at Hy-Vee Echo Water Systems, Twain Barbecue and Tap Room help us out, too. So here's what you do. And you can get onto the websites, kwos.com, 939theeagle.com. If you'd like more info, whole list of places you could go. But if you're in Jefferson City, you can go to Big O Tires, the one on Missouri Boulevard, or on Jefferson. If you're in Mexico, you can go to Graff & Sons. And in Columbia, you can go to Vaughn Pools and Spas. And typically it's like Wednesdays prior to the game. You go in, passes are there, and you just ask. They are completely free. John, did you play high school sports?
Oh, yeah. I was just a big star.
Are you being facetious?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any trophies left from your high school days?
Wow. Well, I don't know. Probably not.
If not, would it be one of the oldest things that you have? To Stephanie's point earlier about old things we have, is we got no kidding, this was a big thing this morning on the show, old crusty pillows that people have. And Stephanie asked the question, what's the oldest thing you have? So it might be trophies. And the only reason I thought about this, Chris Pratt, the actor, who, by the way, here's what I admire about Chris Pratt. I don't really follow actors and stuff, but he did really good work on the TV show Parks and Rec, because he kind of played this, I don't know, dumb, goofy, lovable oddball. And he was sweet, and he nailed that character. And the stuff he plays in the Jurassic Park movies and Guardians, I mean, it's so different. And so when you see an actor like that, I'm like, man, I have a lot of respect.
Well, and he's a very outspoken Christian. He talks about his faith a lot, and he gets a lot of heat for it and continues to speak about his faith. So I admire that as well.
And that's what I've always admired about him.
Principle.
He stands on the principle.
There it is. Shot.
Of the thing. But anyhow, him and his wife talking about this parenting dilemma. And I don't know if you've been through this yet, Steph. Is it okay to eventually toss your kids' trophies? And if so, like when? Because mom and dad got the trophies on the fireplace. Hey, congratulations! In the 1975 T-ball league on Beale Air Force Base, California, your team came in third place.
Participation trophy.
Yeah.
I was going to say now there's more trophies and medals than there used to be.
Congratulations, you came in 10th place in the league featuring 9 teams.
That's right. We're all winners.
We're all winners. Do you have any, and Hannah, you excelled in high school basketball?
I don't know if excel's the word I would use.
Do you still have some of your trophies?
I think at my mom's house, there's like a big bulletin board. I've got lots of the medals and stuff that are supposed to go on your letter jacket still up there. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, my kids have tons of medals. I think it's like when you just keep it all until your kid moves out and gets their own place, and then you just back up a dump truck with all of their stuff and say, you decide what to do with this stuff. I think my dilemma now more is all of the artwork that comes home from school, and the kids have actually found it in the trash can before.
Oh, no.
And they've been just
Well, the magnet on the fridge fell apart and it drifted into the trash, right, kids?
Yeah. I mean, especially when they're younger, they come home and it's like got glitter and glue, and it's like, where do you keep all this? I have a solution, though, so we're here to provide solutions.
I'm listening.
There's a service, we use chat books that you can upload to Instagram, and it prints it into a little book. So all of the certificates and the artwork and everything else, we take a photo of it, and it gets printed into a book, and then it goes in the garbage.
So it's not your picture, but it's a picture of a picture that you drew or colored.
It's the memory that counts.
That's right. I agree. Yeah.
So
it's the memory. I get whenever I go see my grandkids, they do drawings and stuff for me, and I actually the little thing on my house, and I frame the stuff instead of putting it up on.
You do?
Mm-hmm. Because it's my grandkids, and I get to.
This is going to sound bad, but that surprises me.
Really?
Yeah, I've just seen how unsentimental you are with.
You all?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess
Greeting
grandkids
cards.
is different. Yeah, I was thinking about Christmas cards and things like that.
Oh, right. Why delay the inevitable? Like Stephanie, she waits until whenever, and I get the Christmas card from you. I'm like, oh, man, that's very nice. Thank you. And then it goes into the...
I save the
this
cards.
happen.
I have saved. That's so nice. Why would you throw it away? Do you know how expensive those things are?
That's why I think it's odd to buy them in the first place.
See, I'm kind of having that dilemma right now with all of the cards that we were given at our wedding and all of our wedding showers.
Keep them.
It's like, I don't know.
Double check them for cash before you pitch them.
Yeah, it's one of those things, if there's not like a handwritten message inside, I'll probably toss, but I don't know.
Here's an idea for you. And that one of my friends, Jenny, did this for me when I had a baby shower. And she said, gift your favorite book to the new baby. And so people gifted really nice hardback books. And then she put a book plate in them all. And so the books are really classics, and they have my friends' names in them. And a lot of times they shared a note in the front cover of the book of why it was their favorite childhood book. So now we have we still have all those copies, but it's a really nice memento and a way to keep notes from your friends that mean something without keeping a whole bunch of cards.
I did several years ago. I actually brought it into the show one morning. I had a little autograph book from 8th grade.
Like your yearbook where people are like, stay cool.
Yeah, RMA, remember me always. Kenny, off the text, I still have my FFA jacket from 1973.
Blue corduroy, man, never goes out of style.
How about that? Wow.
Did you see Tad's text?
What does Tad say?
Tad, he's asking about your youngest grandchild, Harper. So does the little one sign her art, quote, damn it, Grandpa Branden?
Oh, my gosh. We have audio of Harper. She's my now 6-year-old granddaughter. and we were chatting one day, and we were playing with Barbies or something, and the words that came out of her mouth just blew me away. But it was so cute, and I wish there was a way that I could put that in a printing. As a matter of fact, you hear the audio coming up when we do leftovers. Sandy has a great suggestion on what to do with the art and the trophies. So my mom actually did this after I'd moved out of the house, been gone about 10 years. She's like, hey, I have a whole thing full of, love letters and mementos from high school and all that stuff. What do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't know, Mom. Next time I come to St. Louis, I'll do. She started, no kidding, every week she would send me a box. She says, you throw them away. So that's Sandy's suggestion. Give them back to the kids. James, I have a third place Pinewood Derby trophy from Cub Scouts.
Nice.
That's good. Wow.
Marissa, my mom just gave me 2 trophies this weekend from when I was a kid. She brings me random things at a bit at a time, so she gets them out of their house. I like the idea. Randy got a Chiefs watch. My mom gave me over 30 years ago when I was 11 years old. It is my lucky Chiefs watch. Coming up just a few minutes from now, we'll do some leftovers.
Leftovers. Enjoy.
We're talking about kids' drawings in the refrigerator and stuff, and how long do you keep those drawings up? Is it when you can't see the refrigerator door anymore? And then how long do you keep trophies? Some interesting conversations. Folks sharing some of the oldest things they've had. Kenny, FFA jacket, still has it from 1973. James, third place Pinewood Derby trophy from Cub Scouts. Marissa says, that's funny, man. My mom just gave me some stuff back. Tad says, does Harper's my 6-year-old granddaughter, do you have one of those drawings? So when my kids, when they do drawings and stuff, I put them in frames. Now my grandkids live 1,500 miles away, so they're not drawing stuff every day, but I put them in frames, keep them around the house. Makes me smile every time I see them. He says, does the one little sign on our art say, damn it, Grandpa Branden? Here's what he's referring to. Several years we were building something, and Harper got a little frustrated. She was 4 years old.
Damn it, Grandpa, I'm trying to build it.
She said, dang it, Grandpa, I'm trying to build it. Tad, excellent memory, dude. Appreciate that. Steph, what do you got for leftovers?
Well, we've seen the fallout a little bit about Dean Plocher yesterday, the accusations against the House Speaker, and then many other statewide potentials coming out against him, and he was responding on Twitter saying, and so things for 2024 are heating up, to say the least. But on the heels of that, yesterday it appears that former Senator Bob Onder from the St. Charles area was I think a pretty prominent member of the conservative caucus in the Senate.
Big time.
He amended his campaign committee to say he's now running for statewide office. He also dropped $500,000 into that committee. He has not announced for any races, but we're adding him to our 2024 watch list.
So Dean Plocher, House Speaker, also running for lieutenant governor. And I reached out to Dean Plocher via text yesterday. Said, hey, you want to comment on this? And I think he's commented on social media. And one of the things that I always find interesting with this, we talk about people and organizations and how their reputations precede them, because I think it was the Missouri Independent, and Jason Hancock there, he does thorough work, but it's the Missouri Independent, which to me is like when Fox used the tagline, fair and balanced. Not really. So you have, for me, I always have to consider that the source of it, but it'll be interesting. So then potentially Bob Onder, so with Dean Plocher, and there are calls within the Republican Party for him to resign. So obviously that would potentially affect his race for lieutenant governor. Now, if Bob Onder, and he was part of the folks like with Bill Eigel and Mike Moon. So potentially maybe the implication is he would want to jump into that lieutenant governor's race. By the way, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, he's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this drought while we're expecting rain for the next several days, which is much needed. But you talk about the number one industry in Missouri, it's agriculture, and it is incredibly impactful. That's one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow with Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Mr. Marsh, you got anything for leftovers?
Yeah, from the world of sports, doesn't sound good. Kansas City Chiefs linebacker, former Mizzou Tigers standout Nick Bolton, saying he may be out for 2 months after he dislocated his wrist in the Chargers game and now needs surgery.
So that's too bad for the Chiefs, who are looking really, really good this year. Hopefully the best for him. And then there was a player, and forgive me, I forget his name, but I got duped by the headline. Said Chiefs star was arrested, and I think this was Sunday or Monday. And being a lifelong Chiefs fan for 8 years, I should know the name, but it wasn't a name.
It was Justin Ross.
Justin Ross. He was arrested, and again, and I don't remember the charge. I just remember
misdemeanor domestic battery, but they're not saying any more about the arrest.
And that's what we know about that. Also, there's an iconic Michigan diner. You might remember there was an old some commercials from back in the day. It was Rosie's Diner, the old saucy lady who was waiting at the kitchen, waiting at this. It was kind of like a breakfast diner, and it was for Bounty paper towels. But apparently the diner that these commercials had been filmed in, Pepsi did commercials there. And for folks that like to do like Route 66 through Missouri, it's kind of a big deal. I've been in Michigan for a lot of years. It's coming to Missouri specifically. It's coming into mid-Missouri, and apparently for folks who like to road trip and stuff, it's kind of an interesting thing, but it'll be a couple of years. As a matter of fact, there was a national news outlet that even did kind of a feature on this, and I thought that was kind of interesting because it's coming here. All right, my refrigerator, which is decked out in kids' drawings, is about empty as far as leftovers are concerned. Anybody else? Anything else for leftovers?
I think someone said you can put your crusty pillow in the freezer, and it will preserve it.
That's
where do you put your flip-flops now that you won't need them at work?
In the freezer, but still.
How many pairs of shoes do you actually own, not flip-flops?
I could go look in the back of my car right now because I have shoes for every occasion, dress-up shoes, tennis shoes.
You keep your shoes in your trunk?
I keep some for emergencies.
Add that to your list of things serial killers do.